talking a little bit about Israel and the fact that look, you say whatever you want. I don't really care anymore what people say about me. I am speaking what I believe is the truth. Do your own homework. You disagree, I can't tell you how I pray every day I'm wrong. But I think Israel is being set up by many in our own country and in this administration. It doesn't look good, and I see a trend of a couple of things. And Dory, if you don't mind, I just want to run down a couple of things. May 15th is what in Israel?
May 15th?
May 15th.
This year? I don't know what Independence Day is, but are you making reference to that?
May 15th.
Historically.
Yeah, historically, May 15th is an important day for Independence Day, right?
Yes, of course,
yes,
of course. We use a Hebrew date. That's why I was confused for a moment. Go ahead.
I didn't bring my Jewish calendar. I usually use that at home. So, May 15th. There are several things that are happening in May. One is the flotilla, right around that time period. Facebook had one of their big mass protests happening, I think it was on May 15th, and then that was taken down, and another one that was to march and take the land from Israel. And this is what is on the website. Judgment Day will be brought upon us only once the Muslims have killed all the Jews. And then there's another date that keeps going around, and that is in September. I fear there is something happening here in May and in September. Am I crazy on this, or? Feel free to say yes,
dates.
Everybody does.
I'll give you 3 dates. April, as I said before, the quartet wants to determine that Israel must withdraw to the 67 lines, which in Jerusalem would leave the entire Old City, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, the Temple Mount, and the Western Wall on the Palestinian side, ultimately in the hands of Hamas. So that's April.
Holy cow.
May, as you correctly point out, is another Turkish flotilla.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the flotilla is something which we saw in the past is not just Turkish. On the Mavi Marmara, the main ship last year, there were members of the Muslim Brotherhood from all over the Middle East.
We also have
so that's a second element.
People from the radical left here in America as well.
Correct, the Red-Green Alliance. And then you get to September. And what you see Palestinian diplomatic strategy being today is to avoid negotiations with Israel, despite the concessions we've made, and to go for a unilateral declaration of statehood. That could explode the Middle East.
Let me ask you this. Am I right to say, either of you guys, all three of you guys, are dates important in the Middle East, especially to the Islamic world, to Islamic terrorists? Dates are important, right? Mm-hmm. September 2011. It's what? The 10th anniversary, right, of 9/11. September 9/11. It seems to me that might be an important month for us to watch and see what happens. You were going to say something, Pastor, before I got up?
Just tagging on to what the ambassador said, if the United States of America allows the United Nations to dictate that there is going to be a Palestinian state, then all of the democratic nations in the world are at risk. Because if they, the United Nations, are permitted to dictate to Israel that this Palestinian state now exists, Israel is a sovereign and free democracy. They have democratically elected leaders. And if we allow that democracy to be dictated to by the United Nations, why do we think as Americans that the United Nations will not in turn try to dictate to us?
Well, I don't think anybody does think that. I mean,
they can say, look, you got California from the Spaniards, give it back. You got Texans from the Mexicans, give it back. You got Florida from the Seminole Indians, give it back. Where does that stop?
Okay, hang on. I got to take a quick break. I was reading this until about 4 o'clock in the morning. How old is this, Pastor?
4 years old.
This is an important book for you to read in defense of Israel. Read this book and find out where you stand. I stand with Israel. Back in a minute. America, I want you to stay with me over the summer. We have a lot going on, and I hope to be talking to you about some things specifically that you can do about Israel. And I would ask that you would help us make this a global movement. We're with Rabbi Joseph Potasnik, Pastor John Hagee, and Ambassador Dory Gold. And I want to go to Barbara from Vermont. Barbara.
Hi.
Hi. You have a question?
Yes, I do, and it's for the rabbi. I was wondering, I sense a disconnect between American Jews and the Israeli Jews, and I was wondering if you can explain that and if you see a change happening.
I think there is a gap. And I think, frankly, we have done a bad job, many of us in positions of leadership, in terms of exciting our young people about Israel. I have a son who's 23 years old. If all I talk to him about is victimhood, is pain, is suffering, he is going to say to me, Dad, why should I be Jewish? Is there any joy in being Jewish? And I think one of the mistakes we make is not talking enough about this Jewish pride, about the accomplishments of Israel. I tell you, we have friends here. We need friends. Pastor Hagee has gone to Israel 27 times, 27 trips. Not to mention all of the other support he generates. Glenn Beck speaks out for Israel. We need to form stronger alliances, but we need to get that message across that Israel has done much, and we need to stand with Israel in a positive way, not just the painful part, but the positive part.
I love this. I'm known as an Jew-loving anti-Semite. I don't even know how that's even possible. I mean, I am targeted by the left and the Jewish left like nobody's business. Where is that split? What happens?
I wish I could give you a rational answer. Maybe we need to have mediations here between you and the left. Maybe I'll be the negotiator for you. I don't, but I do think we are not making a good enough case as to the strength of Israel and the spirit of Israel. I can tell you this. I met recently with the Japanese ambassador, and he said to me, I want to thank you and thank your people. You were one of the first countries to respond to the tsunami and the earthquake in Japan. Now, how many people know that in our community that Israel was there with all of the problems besieging us? Someone said we have more problems per square inch than any other country in the world, right?
Oh, yeah.
And yet we're there. We're there for Turkey. We're there for all the other countries. We don't get that message across enough. And I think, therefore, people don't respond enough.
Let me ask you this, Pastor, that it is amazing. Is there any other, in history, is there any other country that went away, played such a huge role, went away, was prophesized it would go away, and then come back and play a role? It's the size of a postage stamp. And really, you might as well put the axis of the earth right through the Temple Mount. The whole world spins, it seems. Has there ever been any other country like this?
No, and it's the size of a postage stamp right now. I'm telling you that in time, whenever Messiah comes, and the rabbi and I disagree on who he is, but when Messiah
I want to be there with you.
Yeah.
We'll vouch for each other. It's good.
One of us, it's going to be a great nation.
Back in a minute. Final minutes here with Rabbi Potasnik, Pastor Hagee, and Ambassador Dory Gold. And let me go to Kenneth from Florida.
Yeah, I had a question basically for anybody. Other than pray for Israel, is there anything that we can do to make Obama change his course on Israel?
Let me start with the ambassador. Ambassador.
Well, I don't want to get into American domestic politics as a former Israeli diplomat. However, I will say there are fundamental principles that have been part of American policy for many years, and I outlined some of them. We don't need to have the territories of the Bible, although the Bible is our source of inspiration. It's a source of the inspiration of the pioneers who established Israel. But we are entitled to defensible borders to keep our country safe.
I will tell you.
We need a firm commitment on that, and I believe that our protection of Jerusalem is not just good for the Jewish people or the people of Israel, it's good for the world. Let's keep Jerusalem whole.
Dory, thank you very much. I will tell you this. I talked to Benjamin Netanyahu a few years ago when I was on the other network, and he said to me, we have a right to live. And that is true. Rabbi.
We teach our young people the difference between decency, indecency, evil and good. I simply say, look at what's going on in the world, look at Israel, stand with the good, stand with the decent, and let's stand together.
It's amazing how clear it is. Is it clear to everybody, good and evil? And are you amazed? Do you stand next to people and say, what the heck is wrong with you? Pastor
In February 2006, we organized Christians Unite for Israel, which is a national Christian organization that now has over 600,000 leaders who once a year go to Washington, D.C. to interact with every senator and congressman on behalf of Israel. July 18th, 19th, and 20th, we're going to be in Washington. You are going to be our speaker on the 19th for a night to honor Israel. We're having nights to honor Israel all over the United States, 40 events every month across the United States to benefit Israel, practical ways to impact public policy in behalf of the state of Israel is putting shoe leather to your faith.
Would worth your time, America. I will be there. I will tell you that he didn't tell me that American politicians would be there. Otherwise, I'm not sure.
They're not coming.
Oh, there. Then I'll honor my agreement.
Now they know you're going to be there. They won't be there.
We're going there the next day.
All right. We'll be back in just a minute. Dietrich Bonhoeffer said, God will not hold us guiltless. Not to speak is to speak. Not to stand is to stand. There is a clear line between good and evil, and it is becoming more clear each and every day. I urge you, do your own homework. Find out where the good is and stand there. From New York, good night, America.